Welcome to Siege Setup, a series where I show you how to set up your site so you make no goofy mistakes. Today we're going to be jumping into Border. Now I did not cover this in my last video. I am going to be showing the 3 main sites, not the 4th. If you guys want to see the uncommon site setups, comment down below, and I'm going to make a whole video going over every 4th pick site and how I would set it up. Anyways, let's get straight into this. Now first, let's talk about the reinforcements. Of course, you're going to get your west breach, and no matter what, these 2 back walls and archives. Now a lot of the reinforcements on this map are completely down to preference and can be situational, but I like to get these 2 office walls, of course this fountain wall, and this right fountain wall. And depending on what you want to do, you can reinforce this wall or make feet holes. And then get the wall down at 90. This will prevent a little bit of being able to make punch holes to see directly into sight, but they can still do it from this side. And then these 2 in box can be flipped. It's completely up to you, but I like to get this left one. Now I know a lot of you are going to be doing the mirror strat, where you reinforce this, put a mirror down, and you pop the mirror to get a deep angle. But please, I promise you, you do not need to do that, and you can actually get way more creative mirror spots, like putting one right here to look into office. I actually have a really cool strat that I could totally show in another video if you guys ask, but please be creative with your mirrors. Another mirror placement can also be for west, if you just put one for west breach. And this is kind of depending on what the enemies do. If they're not pushing west, you don't need to do that. But in my opinion, mirror is really not even that essential on this site. So let's talk about what operators to bring. First off, definitely bring a bandit, and I will always recommend bandit over Cade when there are only walls to be getting, and that's because you can space them out more. For instance, a Cade can get 3 walls at a singular time. Say there was another wall right here and you threw it in the middle, it can get 3 walls. But because of that, since walls can be far away like this back wall, you can't be getting all of this. So this is why I recommend bandit, is because you can get more walls if they're spread out. Our next operator is smoke. Now a lot of the operators in this list, especially on a map like Border, are very replaceable, but I like to bring smoke for the east push because he can easily hold down east pretty much on his own. But the reason I say he's pretty replaceable is because if you have a lot of nitro cells, you genuinely don't need the smoke, especially with some of the next operators that I'm going to be mentioning, because intel is a huge part of this map since it is so open and so many directions that the enemies can push from. Which that takes us into our next operator, which is going to be an intel gathering operator. Now I personally prefer Maestro, but I know a lot of people out there would be better to just pick Valkyrie. Now, the reason I like Maestro over Valkyrie is because 1, you can zap utility, and secondly, it really helps with the east plant, and honestly any plant, because there's going to be smokes, and he can see through that. This will help out anybody who's trying to nitro sell the planter, or people just trying to take gunfights. Now, as shown, definitely get an Evil Eye or a Valk Cam somewhere to cover archives for the east plant, and then another Evil Eye or Valk Cam to cover Armory for your west push. And then for your last cam, I would recommend either office or here in security. Now personally, if I'm running Maestro, I love putting this one in security because then you can make feet holes or even head holes and watch your west breach. Now the last 2 operators are completely up to you, so I'm going to give 3 recommendations, 1 anchor and 2 roamers, since most of our operators we've already listed are anchors. So the first one is our anchor, and that's Azami. Azami is good on genuinely any map, and that is because of how strong her gadget is, and it's a reactive gadget, which can be good, but can also be punishing if you're a bad player. The second operator is going to be Vigil. This is our first roamer. Vigil is incredibly strong on this map because of how big it is. The attackers have a lot to clear. This is one of the main maps that people actually tend to drone on, which in Champion, I still see so many players not droning, but when it comes to Border, there's drones everywhere. But the one operator I want to give highlight is Oryx. This map is perfect for Oryx because the hatches that are in sight are incredibly concealed for you to rotate up through. Not only that, but beneath sight is a very high value point. There's going to always be an attacker that comes down here. So being able to anchor this down and being able to rotate back whenever you please is incredibly valuable. Not only that, but even if you're trying to retake metal or retake security, anywhere on the map can pretty much be accessed by a hatch. So yeah, I think Oryx is actually for once pretty useful. Now our next site of interest is going to be bathroom and tellers. So first let's talk about the reinforcements. Your first three are going to be in teller's room. These ones are pretty essential. So you're gonna get the left teller's wall, the right teller's wall, and then this one that leads into blue. Now next to that, I highly recommend making feet holes. This is so anybody in tellers can watch the hallway for a late push. And then of course, make your rotate into bathroom, and you need to get the hatch. This one is another one that is completely essential. You need this hatch. Now for this hold, we're going to be extending into workshop. This one's pretty simple, so that's why I'm adding it in here. You're going to grab all 4 of the server walls. Now you have 2 reinforcements left. These ones are completely optional. You can either grab more hatches, or if you're not comfortable with these head holes, you can reinforce the head holes. You can reinforce next to the rotate. You have a lot of options, so these 2 are completely up to you. Now let's talk about operators, and this is the perfect demonstration of Cade being more useful than Bandit because 1, we have a hatch, and 2, we have 3 walls next to each other that we definitely want to get, and that is going to be these 3. Now, why am I not getting the left one? That is because as an attacker, you're going to want to open up this wall, not this wall. This wall is going to be way harder to peek from than this right wall will be. Now your next operator is going to be Valkyrie. Now I do recommend taking Valkyrie instead of any other intel operator like Echo, Maestro, or Mozzie, and I'm going to demonstrate why, but let's just start off with getting the Valk cams down. Your first one's going to be here in tellers. You're going to put it right above this wall. Now this one's pretty simple. This is just going to cover your tellers. So let's get into the 2 other cams. Now your next cam, you're going to come into blue, and right next to this vent, you're just going to chuck it right there. That can see down into passport and down your blue hole. And now for your final cam, come up into office and just chuck it right up into these grates. Now this is perfect for a pre-placed nitro because you know dang well a ram or a fuse is going to go upstairs. I personally like to put it right underneath this rug or right at the window for if they're going to jump in. Our next operator is Castle. Now he can be used for almost any extension on this site, but since we are extending into servers, that's going to be the one that I demonstrate. So your first castle will come here in blue on the double door leading into waiting room. Your second castle will be right on the customs double. And then you're going to be getting your blue single door. And to end it off, you're going to be coming in here and getting your server room door. Now I promise you, Castle is literally a must pick for any extension on this site. Even upstairs, he's a must pick. I'm serious. You need to be bringing Castle if you are running this site. Now the 4th and final operator that I'm going to recommend for this site is Goyo. Now your first Goyo is going to come right above the double tellers windows. And if you want, you can genuinely put 2 here, which in total can deny for 40 seconds, and it will deny both windows. But I'm going to show you 4 placements just in case. So the second one will be for your blue hole. Again, this will just simply be to deny time for when it's finally getting to those last 20 seconds. And then of course, if you are extending into workshop, you can obviously put one right here so that when you rotate back, you can block off the rotation. And then if the enemies are trying to do an east take, you can put one next to the east window. The final 5th operator is completely up to you guys. Depending on if you are mainly anchoring or roaming, I would just adjust accordingly to that. And for our final site in this video, we are in workshop and ventilation. Now let's go over the reinforcements. We're not doing any extensions for this because I think this site is a bit more difficult to extend and do properly. So we're going to come into workshop and simply reinforce all of these walls right here. And for this final wall on the right side of the blue door, make feet holes. This is to watch for your bottom metal. Coming over to server, you're going to reinforce the second wall, make head holes on the left, and clear over here on the side, make a rotation. Now your final 2 reinforcements. These are for if you do extend or don't extend and how you extend. If you want to reinforce the hatches, then fine, that's perfect. That's your final 2 reinforcements. If you want to extend upstairs, then maybe you don't want to do that so you have a quick access way of getting back. Now let's say you want customs to be pretty clear, then I would recommend reinforcing detention. But they're your reinforcements, they're up to you, so let's talk operators. Now the first operator I recommend bringing is Castle. Simply Castle your west main, your ventilation window, your blue double door that leads into waiting room, And then your final castle is kind of up to you, and of course if you are extending, then these are probably going to change. But for this final castle, you can either put it on customs double, your blue door, or your bottom metal double. And of course, if you really want to hunker down in the site, then you can put it on this double door as well. Your next operator is going to be Jaeger. Now the reason that this is because this site is incredibly large, which makes it a very utility heavy site. So Jaeger's here to fix that. Your first Jaeger is going to go under the vent window. Your second Jaeger is going to go near the vent door. Now if you keep it back like this a little bit, it can actually go through and catch stuff that's like right here. So if they're trying to throw it at this door, it'll still kind of catch it here and there. And your final Jaeger will just come simply right into workshop to cover this door. Odds are people aren't going to push this as heavy, but if they do, you at least have something here to help you out. Now the third and final operator that I'm going to recommend is Mute. Now he's probably one of the more crucial operators on this site, and this is why. First off, you can block off this vent and this window, which is very high priority, with a singular mute jammer. Now a lot of people will throw it behind. You may as well just throw it in the middle, because the only way that an enemy is going to get it is if they're already in sight, so why does it really matter? Now your second mute jammer is going to come over here on the ventilation door. This is going to block about half of this hallway, so then your next one is going to go at the double door. This is going to block the other half of the hallway. So now nobody can drone through West Main. And then since most of our utility is already at West for a West take, we're going to be like Jaeger, and we're just going to rotate one piece of our utility over to blue to cover this blue door leading into sight. Anyways, that completely wraps up Border. Border is a very unique map. You can do a whole lot with the map. It's genuinely your playground, so this is very default for a setup. But I hope that it really helps out, especially for the newer players. It gives you kind of an idea of what to bring for each site. Again, some of the sites, very unique. So you do you, and if you have a setup, definitely drop it in the comments down below. And again, if you want to see me do a compilation of all of the fourth pick sites, definitely comment down below. The unplayed sites are genuinely some of my favorites because people don't know how to attack them just as much as they don't know how to defend them. So if you have a strong site, it can genuinely tend to be one of the strongest holds in the game. So comment down below if you want that. I believe our next map is going to be Chalet. We're moving on to the seas, so we'll have Chalet, Coastline, and Consulate. So stay tuned for those. Peace out, be safe, and I love you guys. Bye-bye.